Okay, hello everyone. I hope that everyone is doing well. I'm going to give it another minute or two to give people a chance to jump online. Hello everyone. Just going to give it a minute or two. I hope that everyone is doing well, joining us wherever you are in the world. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Hello Jayanta. Hello Jens from Empty Cloud. Hello to everyone in Empty Cloud. I hope everyone is doing well. And to the Bhantes and Aya in Italy, I hope they're having a good night. Hello, Maria. Hello, John. Hello, Robin. Hello to everyone. Hello, Vidura. Hello, Gita. I'm just going to give it another minute or so, especially for those of us that are not on the East Coast. West Coast people might be rushing to jump online. Oh, hello, Isara. Oh, Sachin is there. Hello, Sachin. Hello, Sanya. Hello, all of you. Okay. So we're gonna practice Anapanasati today. Anapana, right? Inhalation and exhalation. Sati, mindfulness, awareness, whatever you want to call it. So everyone here is pretty, well versed, experienced meditators. But just in case there's anyone new or someone that might want a refresher. Oh, hello, Amaranta, Elizabeth, Samin, Yankee Apple, Rahulawat. We're going to be practicing Anapanasati. So make sure that you find a suitable location, right? Not too many distractions. Make sure that you find a comfortable seat, nothing fancy. Try to take a posture that you can maintain for about 20 to 25 minutes. And try to keep your back straight. It's very important. You can close your eyes or leave them open. Just some brief instructions, some explanation of the practice. We're just going to focus on the first Satipatthana, which is Kayanupasana, observing the body. And here we will first start by observing the breath, just being aware, being mindful of the breath, observing the inhalation, observing the exhalation. If you notice that your mind wanders, you gently bring it back. You don't criticize yourself. You don't get all judgmental, hypercritical about your practice, right? Think about like if you were training a puppy, you're not going to beat the puppy or scream at it. You're going to gently, right, instruct it. Come here, come back. So we got to gently and compassionately also treat our mind. So when we get distracted, we gently bring back our attention back to the breath. And then we can begin to notice the different lengths of the breath, whether it's short or long. We also notice we don't try to control the breath. We just observe it. We just watch it. Again, if any distractions arise, we gently bring our attention back to it. But we're not trying to concentrate. And what I mean by concentrate is, being overly forceful. Like sometimes you can see it in people's eyes or eyebrows when they're meditating, like straining themselves, and then the shoulders get tight and the whole body gets tight. So we want to observe, maybe focus a little, direct our attention, direct our mindfulness, but let's not be too overly forceful here. Um, then after that, we can expand our awareness to encompass the entire body. We can observe the entire body. So you can either, think about like a bubble or a sphere where you cover your whole body in awareness, or some of you might be familiar with like the body scan technique. You can go ahead and do that also. Mm, or, any body part, whatever, focusing on the body. And then work on relaxing the body. And what I mean by that is not trying to control anything, just kind of taking this equanimous position of observation, letting go of any tension in the body, just kind of holding that space of awareness without giving into aversion of discomfort and or running after any pleasant experiences. And then we'll find some sort of relief, some sort of uh, pleasantness or joy or delight in just letting go of things, not getting caught up in these stories of the body. And we're just going to stay there. So we're just going to focus on the first satipatthana of observing the body by way of breathing, anapanasati. Okay, I think I over explained it. Hope I didn't confuse anyone. So let's just go ahead and do that. And at the end of the meditation, I'm going to share some blessings. And then at that moment, once you hear me sharing the blessings, you can come out of your meditation. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice anapanasati. So now that your mind is calm, body is relaxed, you can bless yourself with your calm mind by the great wisdom and compassion of the Supreme Buddha, truthfulness of his teachings, Dhamma, noble qualities of his perfect disciples, Mahasangha. May you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Sabitiyo Vivanjantu Saberogo Vinasatu Mate Bhavantwantarayo Sukhi Dikayuko Bhava Bhavetu Sabbe Mangelan Rakantu Sabbe Devata Sabbe Buddha Nubhavena Sabbe Dhamma Nubhavena Sabbe Sangha Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Ti. Also, through the power of this harmonious action, may you be free from immature company, and may you always have good companions until you attain Nibbana. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satam samagemo hotu Yaveni Banapatiya. Okay. I hope everyone had a good meditation. I see some more friends have joined us online. Pravat, Janaki, Book, Anthony, Michael, Cheta, Sabuj, Jayanta, Mint, welcome. Hope that you're having a good day, or at least you had a good time since you've joined us. Okay. So before I give my talk, homage to the Buddha. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. So today I just wanted to share some of my experiences practicing Dhamma, or how I apply Dhamma in the mundane everyday life. Bhante Sarnapala kind of jokes with me when I join him for his online events that I'm the Hollywood monk, because I live in North Hollywood and I grew up in Hollywood. Went to Hollywood High School, so yeah. I've taken that, I've kind of rolled with that in the sense that about 2 or 3 times a week I go to school, and I have to take, well, sometimes depending where I go, I take 2 buses and 2 trains, or just 1 bus and 2 trains. And Los Angeles Metro public transportation is infamous, very infamous. So it gives plenty of opportunities to see where your Dhamma practice is at. But I'd like to share two occasions that happened recently within the last 2 to 3 months with you. Then I'll kind of try to pull something out of the Dhamma, some formal teachings out of it. So, yeah, a couple months ago, when I was coming back from school, it's about what time was it? It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had already taken 1 bus that goes straight through Koreatown on Vermont, which is where I actually grew up as a little kid, where I got to see the LA riots in 1992. Anyways, I went down into the metro station to catch the red line, the train, the subway, the underground, whatever you call it, wherever you're at. And as soon as I got down there, I saw a man jump down into the tracks. So I went to go look over, and I couldn't see him. He disappeared. There's like a little ledge, and he was kind of hiding under that ledge. And I looked around, and I made eye contact with everyone around me, and with those people who weren't on their phones. Most people are on their phones, and everyone's just chill, And I understand this is like something that happens pretty frequently, on Los Angeles public transportation. But everyone was just going about their business. At the same time that man jumped down there, and I was looking for him because I was going to tell him, come out, please. You shouldn't be in there. The voice comes on, right? That lets you know when the next train is coming. It goes, oh. And he goes, red line to North Hollywood. We'll be arriving in 4 minutes or something like that. I was like, okay, that's there's a sense of urgency here, and no one's doing anything. So it's a huge platform. This one, the Wilshire, Vermont station, is probably one of the bigger, if not the biggest, platform, the biggest station. Uh, it's multi-tier, like multi-level, and I saw all the way at the end these two security guards. So I walked over there, and they were just looking at me, and I told them, "Hey, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a man who jumped down on the rails, and he's still down there." They're like, "Oh yeah, we saw him." And then I kind of gave them the look, like, "Okay, like, are you gonna do anything?" They're like, "Oh, but this is not our post. We're going to the next station, and that's our post in the next station. So we can't do anything here until we get to our post at the next station. But if you like, you can press the emergency intercom and let them know what's going on." I was a little bit disappointed in that answer, but I said, "Okay, whatever." I didn't say anything back to them. I said, "Thank you." That's all I said. Yeah, thank you. I went to the intercom. I pushed it, and then it took about like 30 seconds for someone to answer. And they said, I forget what it was, like very casual, like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I was like, "Oh, there's a man who jumped on the platform, onto the platform, and he kind of went under that little part where you can't see." He's like, "Okay, give me the description," but also kind of like very nonchalant, like no sense of urgency. And I was like, "Yeah, the train's about to come any minute now. Yeah, yeah, just can you see him now? Is he still there?" And and I was like beginning to worry about this man who's down there. But everyone still was just kind of chill. I didn't see anyone do anything. The security guards were still just where they were at, and everyone was doing what they were doing, when they saw him jump down there. So after about like talking to the man on the intercom for a little bit over a minute, almost 2 minutes, this young man, this like teenage high school boy, comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, hey, are you calling about that man?" I said, "Yeah, I'm calling about the man who jumped down there." He goes, "Well, he came out of there, and some man started shouting at him, and you know, yeah, shouting at him and telling him bad words, and he came out of there. So he completely jumped out of the train tracks. He wasn't even anywhere near it now." And I said, "Okay, thank you." And then I passed that message along to the person on the other side of the intercom, and they're like, "Okay, that's it." And then they just hung up. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is that, I wasn't surprised because there is this sense of, when I'm on public transportation, how everyone's just in their own world, and when something does happen, no one wants to get involved. Um, but in another way, I had a deep concern for the person that was down there. They're in mortal danger, and then there was the concern for like everyone's callousness, being jaded, or I don't know, just focused on themselves. This kind of egocentric perspective. Um, then I thought to myself, how would I have reacted or responded to this situation many years ago, right? When I used to take the train all the time, going to high school and going to community college. Probably very similar to them, right? I probably would have just kind of minded my own business, and wouldn't really have any concern for the person who jumped down there, right? Like, well, he's the fool that that jumped down there. So whatever happens is kind of like, he's kind of asking for it for jumping down there, and so I used it. I used this experience as a way to kind of reflect on the changes that have taken place from, when I was in high school, to when I started practicing Dhamma, to when I became a monk, until now. And I was able to notice this spontaneous, sincere, non-contrived um, concern, you know, concern for others. It's not something that I had to think about. And it didn't come from a place of self-righteousness or thinking that that's what I need to do because like I'm a Buddhist monk, and it was just kind of like this natural thing, and that happened, and it felt very cool too. It kind of had like this cool vibe to it, like freshness to it. It wasn't that much kind of like like I guess in the past when I would feel compassion, it was always kind of like hot and very forceful or energetic. It was kind of like a cool concern, an embracing uh, kind of feeling towards that person who was in a dangerous situation, and no one even pays attention or even really cared, and even the people whose job it is, they were like whatever. That's the kind of attitude I got from the security guards, and that's the kind of attitude I got from the person on the intercom. It just seemed like the only person who cared was me, but that wasn't true, right? That wasn't true. um, the person who shouted at the man, although he took a very aggressive approach to trying to help the man, I mean, he had some sort of concern for the man, and that brought me some joy, some mudita. um, the young man, right? He didn't have to come and tell me that someone had already convinced that man who jumped on the rails to get out of the rails. So he has some sort of concern, right, for me. Oh, that man, that monk is worried and he's trying to help, and there's nothing going on anymore, so I should let him know that he shouldn't worry. So there are some people out there that are concerned, um, about other people's well-being. But bringing it back to myself, I think that the number one thing that's been able to help me in situations like this, where I spontaneously just have a concern for others and try to do something about it too. Compassion is not just a feeling. uh, there's a affect dimension, there's a cognitive dimension, and there's a behavioral dimension to compassion. um, the practice of metta meditation, I remember, even before I was a monk and I first started learning Dhamma, that it was metta that I practiced on the fly all the time. And when I would ride the bus, where I was at the gym or just doing like daily chores at the house, I would practice metta meditation. Just may all beings be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. May all beings be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Especially on the bus, I practiced it a lot. And something interesting happened also. When I would actively practice metta on the bus, I would notice that the people that we would tend to suspect that might cause a disturbance on the bus would avoid me. They wouldn't sit next to me or come around me. So I guess in that sense, I saw right away the immediate protective powers of metta, and that kind of also motivated me to keep practicing metta. And to be honest, the vast majority of my practice is the practice of metta. And I see a big change from before I was a monk. As a layperson, I might have just been on my phone too, like I said, and not really cared. And if I did do something, it might have come from some egocentric or kind of like super ego, kind of telling you this is the right thing to do, some sort of a external or self-righteous motivation to do something. But now it's just something that happens without trying. To be honest, when I ride the bus now in the train, I don't actively practice metta that often. Um, it just kind of becomes part of you. It's just there all the time. It becomes the default. You replace your old patterns of thinking and your old patterns of motivation and your old view of the world with the new one, and then that becomes the default. And then, for the most part, whatever you think, say, or do comes from that place once you change the default. Anyways, that's one experience I wanted to share with you that happened a couple months ago. And then there's another experience that happened when I was going to school, coming out of that uh, metro station again on Wilshire in Vermont. Actually, if I would share with you more stories, most of the things happen there. It's kind of a hub for these kind of unexpected situations. Probably because it's just like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, stations. So on the way to school, there's a Starbucks there, and I'm so lucky that many of the people here give me like gift cards, and so I'm able to use the app. I upload the gift card to the app, and then I'm able to get some coffee on the way to school. And so I was sitting there, just enjoying the latte. It was a cold morning too, very cool morning, and I'm looking out the window. I love to look out the window, and like there's this nice view of all of Wilshire Boulevard where it meets Vermont, and you can see the train station. You can see everyone getting on all the buses. It's just like a place where you see a lot of people moving, right? It's a good place to people watch. And I noticed that someone came into my view and kind of was there for a little bit. But I'm focusing on the scenery. But then when I noticed who's there, it was a young lady, maybe like in her early 20s, dressed in very revealing attire. And then the thought that came to my mind is like, it's kind of cold to be dressed like that, like at 7 in the morning. But then I thought, wait a minute, someone's looking at me and my face is looking that way. They're going to think that I'm looking at this girl, this young lady. And I remember one of my teachers telling me that too. He's like, when he was walking around the streets when he first came to America, and he felt like he couldn't look anywhere at that time because like there was that he thought that people might see him looking in a direction he might be looking at a woman. They might suspect that he was checking out someone, right? And he would feel very embarrassed if anyone thought that he was checking out someone, or they would accuse him of checking out someone. So in the very beginning, he told me that we have to be careful as monks when we're outside the temple. And it's kind of like when like the Buddha tells monks when they go on alms round to just kind of look down and not look around. You shouldn't be looking around all over the place when you're on alms round. When you go into the town, you need to practice indriya samvara, sense restraint, right? Protect your senses. So when that feeling came up of like, oh, what other people might think, if they see me looking in that direction that I was already looking, but there's this young lady dressed like that. Then I looked away. And then I thought nothing of it, it was just that. And I just went back to my business, drinking my latte. But then I wanted to get something else to drink. So I got back into the line. And when I was going to get into the line, lo and behold, see who shows up, who comes into, this is like 10 minutes after I saw this young lady. She shows up into the line. But I didn't really get to see her that good. Got into the line, and then I just kind of looked to the side, and I saw her come in the door, and then I just looked straight ahead. But then I felt very strange. There was this very strange feeling. I just felt very uncomfortable. I had this very uncomfortable feeling. And, I don't know if I've told any of you this, but before I did martial arts for many years. And then I worked in the security field, and I was in the military. And you kind of have this kind of general sense of like what's going on around you, right? especially like in the peripheries. You're kind of just you have this kind of you were trained in a certain way to be very perceptive of movement. Uh, so I just kind of didn't see what it was, but there was some movement here, and I felt like I was in danger. Uh, so I, without knowing what's going on behind me, I just kind of shuffled away, and looked, and I saw an arm reaching out to touch me. And then when I saw that arm, I shuffled back some more, and that same young lady pulled her arm back, but then she reached for me again, trying to touch me again. She didn't manage to touch me the first time, but she reached out to try to touch me. And I said, no, no, thanks, no touching. uh, and then she kind of stayed with her arm out there. And she said something like, "Oh, am I evil?" or something like that. I don't know why she would say that. She said, "Oh, am I evil?" And that kind of threw me off. Then I felt bad. I felt like, "Oh wow, like did I do something wrong by pulling back like that?" But it was like instinctual. I didn't think about doing it the first time. Uh, the second time it was more intentional because she was reaching for me again, and I just wanted it to be clear. But I didn't have any intention to make her feel bad about what she was doing. So then again, I said, no touching, a little bit louder. And then the customer in front of me turned around, and he looked at her, and he looked at me, then he looked at her, and that kind of made her pull away. And then she just kind of kept to herself. And I just turned around and went back into the line. But I felt very uncomfortable with her behind me. So then I stepped out of the line and I let her go. And then I waited until she was done, and I got back in the line. And got my second drink that morning. Then I remember later on that day when I met up with a friend from the temple here, I told them about this scenario, and I told them that I felt really bad. Like I was wondering, what that young lady must have thought, like if she was hurt or from my action from moving away like that. But then he kind of told me, it's like, no, like, you're a monk, you're supposed to avoid physical contact, especially with women. And some random person doesn't have the right to come and touch you without even you knowing, and grab you from behind. I mean, she was in the wrong. But at the same time, I had this kind of feeling of like, maybe I could have handled it in a better situation. But he kind of told me like, well, you just did what you needed to do. You needed to protect your sila, and you told me that you didn't have any bad intentions, so you did the correct thing. And logically, if when I or not, when I try to reason out, of course, yeah, I think I did the right thing. I feel very confident, but at the same time, when I'm out in this, when I'm out and about with the general public, I really try very hard not to make anyone feel uncomfortable. Definitely try not to, hurt anyone in any way. But somehow, no matter how hard we try, we might come into situations where we're this kind of like it's just going to be that way, right? It's just going to be that way, whichever way it turns out, and it might look different every time for every person and every encounter, even with the same person. But I did have this concern for her, especially since there's not many Buddhist monks, what she might think later of Buddhist monks, She probably doesn't know that you can't touch Buddhist monks or stuff like that, right? That monks take the precepts. And now she might have a very, different opinion or perspective on Buddhist monks, maybe not such a wholesome one. Or maybe she just doesn't care, right? Maybe she just doesn't care. And she was just doing her own thing that day, that early in the morning. But yeah, so this, sometimes we can confuse metta with something that is not. Like, I think in that situation with that young lady, that concern was an authentic concern, a compassionate, metta, a concern, karuna, metta. That it came from those two places, from metta and karuna. But then my interpretation of that concern kind of like uh, went the other way, where I kind of, you know, maybe started criticizing myself or blaming myself to some extent for what took place. Where I think that was not the right way to go about it. To question myself like that at that moment for what occurred. So sometimes we need to be careful because uh, metta and karuna, like loving kindness and compassion, can be can be really confusing, right? Like, metta is not like love in the way that we know it. There's like in the Dhammapada, it says that pema's like love, causes fear, and because of that fear, there's suffering. And one who's free from fear, how can there be any suffering for pema? And then there's pia. Pia is like, it's also kind of like this kind of level of fondness, yeah, like fondness for people that you like. Metta can be confused with that, and then compassion can be confused with like sentimentality, right? Just kind of like just being overtaken by whatever emotion arises in the moment. But I think the key elements of metta and karuna is, one, that they're selfless. Another one is that they come from a place of equanimity, and from a place of uh, a good intention. I think that's a good way to like triangulate, if it's within the realm of metta and karuna, and not going to other places where it may not be so skillful. All right, I did my 30 minutes of talking. uh, Now, questions? Anything in the chat? You can put your questions. I'll go back and try to see if there's any since the beginning. Let's see. Hello to those who are in Poland. Shadow of label. How long does it take to master yin and yang energy of right and left side of the body through Dhamma? I don't know. I don't I don't have any experience with yin or yang energies. Anthony, saludos de las Floridas. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to head out there soon. I haven't been to Florida since before I was a monk. Sabuj, Bandana Bante. How do we have anything to say? Do we have anything to say in our minds? Is there a matter of breathing? Is there anything to realize or imagine to close your eyes at the time meditate? No, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. Sometimes it helps, if you're a very thinky person, right? It might help just to kind of like direct the thought, to what you're doing, to kind of help you focus. Sometimes like people will count the breath, right, to help them. But you just have to observe it. You just have to be mindful of it. You don't have to say anything. You can if it helps you, but you don't have to. I actually find it the labeling it or to be a disturbance of the clarity or calmness of the mind at times. But I can see how it can be useful. Like when I first learned meditation, I started with Zen, and in the beginning they told us to count the breath, and I did find it very useful at that time. But I think there comes a time where you have to let that go and just only be mindful of the breath. Hello to our friends in Myanmar and friends in Thailand. How do you practice mudita? Do you like the translation appreciative joy? I don't like the translation appreciative joy. That's the easy answer for that one. Um, so what we have to understand is that there isn't this, there isn't these four different things like metta meditation, karuna meditation, mudita meditation, upeka meditation, or like a metta practice, compassion practice, karuna practice, mudita upeka practice. Um, you know, starting from metta, the logical or natural next step is compassion, karuna. And when you develop karuna, the natural, it naturally flows into mudita, and mudita naturally flows into upeka. So if you want to practice karuna, mudita, or upeka, you need to develop metta. Metta, when it's properly developed, will automatically lead you to karuna, and karuna, when properly developed, will lead you to mudita. I mean, you can check yourself, right? You can check yourself when like a thought of jealousy or resentment arises in you, right? Like your coworker who's no good got a promotion or he gets the credit for a job. You can check yourself when that thought comes up into your mind, and instead of that, have a thought of mudita, right? Like, oh, well, at least he's happy, right? I'm happy that he's happy. I'm rejoicing in his happiness. You can do that. I mean, but when it comes to like like developing the Brahma Viharas, uh, it's not like this kind of like separate practices. So I would just say, just really get into metta, and you'll see how that automatically leads to all the ones. You can't skip. You can't have mudita without first developing metta, because you won't care. I mean, there's really the basis for all the Brahma Viharas is to have this kind of basic understanding of metta, starting from as am I, so are they, as they are, so am I. Uh, Making this as a parallel, taking this into consideration, one shouldn't kill or order others to kill living beings. That's like metta. Um, so in order to have karuna, mudita, upeka, first you have to have this benevolent perspective, this benevolent state of mind, this state of goodwill towards all beings. So just practice metta, and automatically you'll come to mudita. But yeah, if you notice resentment or jealousy in your mind, in your heart, then just make an effort to be joyful for the other person, and that's kind of more like a um, another way to kind of try to come at mudita. Although I found in my own perspective, just to go through metta is like the best way. Um, Elizabeth, Bhante, can you stay at my house as a blessed guest? Oh, there have to be some um, proper occasion, and like there's no temples around there. I'm in the area, and I have to get permission to leave and all that kind of stuff. It's very unlikely that monks stay in lay people's houses. It's just like when there's no other option that a monk stays at a person's house, and no more than a few nights. I can't remember the exact number. I think it's like can't spend more than like 3 nights or something like that. And even then, there has to be like a male there and all these other rules and stuff like that. So it's very, very unlikely, very that a monk will stay at a lay person's house. First, all other options have to be exhausted before that happens. And yeah, Anthony, I like this approach. I tend to get hung up on what Brahma Viharas I'm experiencing exactly. Okay, glad it helped. At least it made sense to someone. Any other questions, comments, concerns? You might have noticed like something with my voice. This is kind of funny, I think. So I have like a little blister on my tongue because I have an allergy to cinnamon. And 2 mornings ago, my cousin took me out for breakfast, and he got French toast, and he said the French toast was really good. And I ordered the French toast, and knowing very well that that I have an allergy to cinnamon, I still ate the French toast. So now I have to experience the vipaka, the pala of my actions. And that's why you kind of hear me talk maybe with a little lisp or something like that. It's just because that cinnamon got to me. So I might be sounding a little different. My voice sounds a little different today. Jens, yeah, no worries, Jens. Oh, if there's no other questions, then I guess we can call it a night, call it an afternoon, call it an evening. Yeah, I think I'll be back again. I think the next one is on the 16th. So 2 Thursdays from now, I will return. I was asked to do every Thursday this month, but I have school and other obligations, and it'd be cutting it really tight. So I picked the days that where I don't have to rush. I try to avoid rushing. Like I try to avoid doing things last minute or putting things too close because I try to avoid anything that will disturb the serenity of my mind. My mind already has things bothering it. I don't want to create conditions to agitate it any more than it already is. So that's why I didn't do all of the ones this month, but I will be doing the next one on the 16th, 2 weeks from now. Okay, well, that's it for today. Hope that there was some benefit from the meditation today. I hope you got some benefit from the blessings and from my quasi pseudo Dhamma talk, just sharing my stories. So by the power of these meritorious actions, by the practice of developing skillful states of mind, listening to the Dhamma, rejoicing in the Dhamma, and associating with good friends, Kalyanamitas, everyone here online. We got 24 Kalyanamitas online, says right here, that are watching right now. And those who will be watching in the future, may all of you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Sukhi Hotu. Have a good night. Bye-bye, everyone.